welcome everyone. My name is Che. I am the program manager here at Big Bear Retreat Center. And today I have two wonderful guests here with me for a bit of a Q&A session that we are enjoying rolling out and doing with teachers who are coming to host here on the land. And these are moments that give us a great opportunity to get to know the teachers more, get a deeper understanding about the retreat and what it will look like, what the intention is. So I'm just going to ask a few questions of Lee and Chi and Kim, and they'll give us some responses and some replies and some notes. And yeah, everyone pull up a chair, pull up a cushion, enjoy giving a listen, and we are going to get started. All right, so our first question is, what is the intention of your retreat?
Hi Shay, thank you for this opportunity. Yes, the retreat intention is I would like for a yogi to have the opportunity to learn or to explore how awareness arises naturally, and also I would like to invite them to see, explore, and experience for themselves how the practice can be continuous, go on throughout the day. And most of
Mm,
all, I think it's I cannot say for everyone, but majority or especially myself, that how do we carry on the practice when we go home? That's
mm,
always a big question for me when I was and started with the retreat time.
mm. Yeah, I think that is such an important aspect too, because I think it feels similar to me to how your practice of meditation daily, right? You know, you can sit in the morning, you can sit in the evening, and then how am I finding stillness and how am I finding quiet, throughout the day? And I think it's really a really, really important intention that I know you have for most, if not all of your retreats, that folks are able to take this energy on retreat and be able to integrate it into the home space. So yeah, so thank you for that. All right, and let's see what else we have next. Okay, and next question, why and how is the practice critical in daily life, not only for the person, but as a way of bringing harmony to the world? So, the critical aspects of practice in daily life, and why is it important for the individual as well as bringing harmony to everyone on the planet?
Well, thank you. This is such an interesting question. And also, really, as LC said, it's the highlight of this retreat is that we want people to develop a continuous kind of mindfulness, awareness that they can bring not only throughout the retreat where they're practicing it, but then back into daily life. And essentially, if we don't practice, if we're not bringing awareness into our experiences as we're going throughout the day, we greatly reduce our choice in the world.
Mhm,
When there's mindfulness or awareness, we can see what's going on. We have a choice about doing one thing or another, about saying one thing or another, about being able to choose a direction that's wholesome and beneficial for ourselves and for other people. And many people experience this that as they start to do this kind of practice, as they suddenly realize that, even without trying, essentially, they come to a moment where they would have normally just reacted with anger or impatience,
mhm,
and they realize, oh, wait, that didn't happen. Wow. And so there can be an
mhm,
understanding that we can have a lot more clarity and a lot more wisdom about how we
mhm,
relate to people, how we relate to our life. Another teacher I've worked with gave an interesting example where he said, sea turtles navigate using a magnetic field. We now know that's how they do it. But essentially, if they're just ordinary sea turtles, Then they navigate using the magnetic field of the earth. That's the natural one that's out there. But we can cultivate through practice a different kind of natural awareness, something that is internal. And then we're navigating by our own wisdom, our own heart, our own clarity. And we don't have to just follow the random trends of what we see around us. So, this choice, I think, is really at the center of what can help ourselves and the world through practice.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Kim. Yeah, that feels so much of, yeah, not getting into just being reactionary and not, something can obviously leave an impression on you in terms of communication or conversation or even someone else's actions. And how do you choose to just say, okay, wait a minute, let me take a breath. Let me see what's really happening here for me, and choose a more compassionate and graceful response. Just, yeah, with others, with yourself, moving throughout the day. Yeah, thank you for that. Let's see. All right, next question is, what inspired you to teach the focus of this retreat?
Well, I can take this question. Um, as you two know that I was born and raised in a Buddhist family, so even like my grandpa and grandma um, and uncle aunts, they was monk and nuns. So come to
Hmm.
stay in the temple and for months or even years, it's very natural for me. But after many retreats, long time retreats, but when I got home, like everybody else, after a while, the steam was going down. So I lost interest in practice. The momentum is completely go south. So I try more and more, but I keep doing the same. Probably just me. I don't know, but it's been like that quite often. And then, but in 2003, I met Sayadaw Tejaniya and learned from him this style. And since then, when I come back, I was able to carry on the practice in my daily life when I was still in college, or even after I graduate, I still can continue to practice in the office where I was the architect. So because of that, I think I just think that it's maybe a lot of folks out there have the same problem, and this is a good
Mhm.
chance to share with everyone, or at least with those who have the same problem as I did, to take it on this style where you can practice in any condition, any place, any it doesn't have to be retreat set up. And I'm not saying that the retreat is not necessary. I'm just saying like there can be practice
Mhm.
just like that outside too, on top of the retreat setup. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, any notes from you, Kim? No?
Well, I think that uh, just as Elsie said, we're excited to share this practice because it's so beneficial for so many people. And particularly in times like today's, where many people are triggered by the events in the world and have quite a lot of stress in their daily life. Um, there's a real advantage to being able to do these kinds of practices all the time. And from our perspective as teachers, we want more people out there who are bringing wisdom, calmness, awareness to their lives, because that then will serve all the people around them and have a bigger ripple effect than just the people we can literally reach on this retreat.
Mhm. Yes. All right. Thank you both for those answers. Let's see what we have here next. Okay. Who is the retreat for?
Well, I can start on this one and say that at the base level, it's for anyone who's inspired at this point and saying, yes, actually, I would like to, in my life, have more awareness of what I'm doing and an ability to stay grounded and connected and, relationally compassionate through any conditions. So that's the base level. But in addition, more specifically, I think about a quote that I heard from Andrea Fella, who's one of the senior teachers of Utejaniya and is the one who introduced me to this style of practice. She said these kinds of retreats could be called Your Mind 101,
Mm,
introduction to how our mind operates. The basics. We may think we know something about ourselves. We've lived our whole lives with ourselves, don't we know? But actually, if we look more carefully using the techniques that we'll be teaching on this retreat, we see so much more about what's going on in the unfolding of our thoughts and our emotions and our actions, all the conditions that feed into how we behave and speak and think as we do. It's such a wonderful education. And so this retreat is really for people who are curious about that, who want to see how their own minds work.
mm,
And we have an extraordinary opportunity in the retreat setting where we'll be silent most of the time, and also doing relatively simple things during the day, not a lot of complexity, that we can really see more clearly what's going on. So it is also for people who are willing to be silent and willing to go with the retreat
mm,
schedule and the retreat activities in order to be able to take this out into their lives. And then if I could add one tiny thing, I think it helps to have some humility, given what we're going to see and the way our mind operates. It's very humbling.
mm. Yeah, yeah, very much so. Releasing judgment is uh, a very, very heartful practice for all of us. Yeah, so that's a great note on the humility. Yeah, thank you for that reminder. Okay. All right. So next question. How would you describe your teaching style?
I can go first on this one. I think my teaching style is have a big influence from my teacher Sayadaw Utejaniya because he's my primary teacher.
Mm,
He's a monk in Burma, and so because I after I learned this style from him, I love it so much. So it's become my
mm,
main practice, and because of that, I influence his style. He has a very flexible way to to teach, and which gives me a lot
okay.
of joy when I learn from him. Also,
Okay.
he emphasizes, and this is the thing that I learned from him, and I think it's very important for a yogi to practice. He mentioned he emphasized his teaching is emphasis on right view or wise view, and right
Okay.
attitude and right
Mm,
effort, which is just very gentle but not giving up,
mm,
and a lot of curiosity in our
mm,
like throughout the day. It's not only on the cushion but also
mm,
in daily life. And another
okay.
thing that I think is have big effect in my teaching style is my personality. um, I think I have a very curious um, personality because I
Mm.
was born and raised as a tomboy in my family. So
Ah,
I'm very
yes.
curious, and I like to laugh a lot. Also, because
Mm,
I was an architect and a designer, so my mind
mhm,
is also very creative, a lot of creativity aspect in there. So when I teach, I like to ask yogi a lot of questions to evoke their interest in the practice or in their
mm,
own experiences. And I like to encourage them to be more curious or try
mm,
this or try that. Don't worry about like failing or like so that's I can give you an example. Like we
mm.
all love to go to vacation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and when I ask yogi a question like, so you go, you know, like how, why we be happy in vacation? And everybody would say the question, because we don't have to work, we see new thing, we have a good food, we have a friend or families to have fun with. But that is like everybody can answer that, right? So it's not only yogi can answer that, and non-yogi cannot answer that. It's everybody know that. But the truth
Mm,
is, only yogi can know the reason we stay in happy in vacation, because we fully stay in present moment, right? So but
mhm,
we, if a non-yogi, they don't see that, but the yogi, they
mm.
see both. They can see
Yeah.
because of this and this and this, and then also we be in this. Or I can ask some kind of question like, you choose your clothes every day in the morning for go
Hmm.
to work, so have you learned anything from that? Do you know how to make the
Um,
decision? So stuff
yes.
like that, I'm interested into that. So I think
Okay.
because of Sayadaw and also because of my personality, um,
Mm,
I love to be like the person who evoke people to be more creativity in their practice.
mm. I like that a lot. Um, I really appreciate the creativity that you speak of. And there was something you just said that really resonated with me in your example with vacation, right? You're saying, okay, you're present, you're fully present in the moment. And then you move to the example of how you select your clothes in the morning. And so there's a piece to both of those where you're getting into inquiry, right? And that to me is a really, really big key, no matter what sort of spiritual practice or lineage or mindfulness you say yes to when you decide to dive into. I find that to really grow and to really stretch in whatever practice that is, that self-inquiry is important, and sort of always that curiosity and saying, "Okay, well, what's happening now? Why am I choosing this? Where is it coming from?" And you get to a lot of answers and to a lot of deep listening that way. Yeah. All right. So next question. Who or what inspired you to start to practice deeply and devote your life and your practice in the Dharma?
I can start on that one. Um, I came to the Dharma through suffering, actually, in my own life.
Mm,
Is that um, you know, I thought I had a relatively good life. In fact, I what normally, the usual things that we're supposed to be doing. And I was not at all prepared for a health challenge that I had in early adulthood. And I
mm,
found that the tools that I had been given in my life before that for addressing these kinds of things were quite unsatisfactory. And I was suffering a lot through not understanding, through the
mm,
difficulty I was in. Many people come to the Dharma through suffering in some way. And then I found
mm,
that the tools of the Dharma immediately resonated with me. And I felt like, oh, this is, first of all, the First Noble Truth starts with there's suffering in human life. It's like, yeah,
mm,
I know. And so, you start there. Truthfulness, very important to me. I'm
mm,
originally trained as a scientist. And so
mm.
that's kind of the
Okay.
focus of my practice and teaching is what is really true here. And even if we find a certain level of truth, yeah, but what's the truth under that? And, how far down can you
Mhm.
go? How deeply can you question what's going on? I very much appreciate the creativity that LC spoke of, the inquiry, the investigation, and the flavor of it that I bring is, are you willing to go all the way with that? How far? How deep are you
Mhm.
willing to go? And to do that, we have to quiet our minds. So I
Yeah.
teach a little bit of tranquility along with our practice and equanimity. Um, so, yeah, I was ready to open to the Dharma after this challenge. And then my primary teacher, who met me at that time, was Gil Fronsdal, and
Mhm.
taught me so much about how to relate to experience such that we don't increase our own suffering and such that we can stabilize the mind so that it can really see clearly. And then that's what we bring to this inquiry about our daily life, about what's going on from moment to moment as we go along. So long after I, got through kind of the illness and the challenge that I had, the Dharma took
Mhm.
root in my heart much more deeply. And I was like, oh, there's so much
Mhm.
more here. This is not just about relief of personal stress or difficulty. It's like there's a whole wisdom tradition here. There's a lot going on in the Dharma, and I haven't looked back since then. I love the Buddhist
Mhm.
texts. I love meditation retreats. I love daily life practice, and now getting into teaching and sharing this has brought a whole new dimension. So. I encourage the opening up of the to the fullness of the Dharma. It's really meant to be a whole life practice and process, and it's so profound and so meaningful. Yeah,
Mhm.
very much
Oh,
touches my.
yeah. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for sharing that.
Um, well, for me, I think, like I mentioned earlier, I was born in the Buddhist family, and I was I was tomboy, so
Mhm.
I am or I was uh, very stubborn. So I brought up the suffering on myself, a lot of suffering because
Oh.
of the stubbornness that I have in my personality, and also because I was born in Asia. I am Asian, like you can see, so a lot of Asian have
Mhm.
a lot of wrong understanding about Buddhism practice, as they have
Mhm.
superstition, or they also have
Mhm.
belief in so much of praying and chanting, which I'm not saying is wrong, and totally is there's a benefit from practice those things, but to gain understanding, to actually get out of suffering, is have to practice to until you have the understanding yourself. So just like Kim, the inspiration that the to practice, just I start to practice it just naturally for me because I was born in the family and or in the country, a Buddhist country. But
Mhm.
to go deep into the practice, definitely my own suffering. I had
Mhm.
a lot of suffering when I was teenager, and until my early 20. So I think because of that suffering, is take me on the practice nonstop, and so inspiration to practice deeply. I think it should be my uh, suffering. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that, Elsie. Um, yeah, heaviness and contrasting situations. You know, you want relief, you want to feel better, you want to feel lighter. So you'll always, in my mind, you'll always reach for an antidote. You'll reach for something that is a balm and that can, really help you along the way. Yeah, thank you both. Those were such really rich answers. And getting to, I've worked with both of you before, obviously, for the same retreat here. So I love doing these where I get to see and hear more about you, and how you got to practice yourself also. So yeah. Okay. Let's see what we got next. So what key aspects of your childhood or early adulthood experiences informed who you are, why you teach, or what brought you to the Dharma? A little bit similar to the last question, but maybe some other, like if there's key events that you can remember, or key stories maybe to what inspired you.
Well, I can begin to speak to this. I was influenced when I was quite young as a budding young scientist by uh, Carl Sagan. I don't know how many people remember him, but he was a
Mhm,
scientist who really liked to popularize science and explain to people why it was useful to their lives, what meaning it had, even for the political and economic world and the environmental world. And um, when I was touched by that, I felt in myself a sense
mhm,
of what is my place in the universe? Where surface of a planet orbiting a star in that's one little tiny star in a huge galaxy. Like what is that all about? And I can't say I've ever answered that question or that Buddhism even aims to exactly answer that question, but it's always been alive in me is this kind of sense of, yeah, there's me here, but there's something much bigger. There's got to be some way to touch into that. And,
mhm,
in my childhood, it was, kind of innocent in that sense. And then I felt like as I got into adulthood, and especially as I ran into what's called a heavenly messenger, aging, illness, or death, or the heavenly messengers, it's like, oh, you can't have this
mhm,
just this naive kind of innocent way of approaching that question. This is actually something much more radical. We need to include our whole mind, our whole psyche, as well as the physical world, not just the scientific, physical world that we study through science. And so I would say that the Dharma has opened in me uh, new dimensions of connecting to others and through this ongoing question of what's really true, what's the relationship here, what's the meaning of this larger picture. um, I don't know that we get that answered exactly, but somehow that
mhm,
questioning, that inquiry, is what opens the heart and the mind to some or non-ordinary way of seeing in the world. Not that it's transcendent and special and you can put an ego on it. It's quite the opposite. It's like, oh, there isn't really a center to the universe, or there's an infinite number of centers to the universe. So I
mhm,
think I don't want to leave out these more wondrous sides of the Dharma, even as we're very practical about why we're putting on our clothes and what's going
mhm,
on as we lift a forkful of food to our mouth. It has to do with like the expression of life. And so I
mhm,
want to make sure that that gets included. So
mhm,
yeah, don't
mhm,
dismiss the big questions in your heart.
mhm. Yeah, thank you, Kim. Thank you for that.
Well, for me, like I said earlier, um, my parents was I was born in the family of seven,
Mm,
and my mom and dad was hoping to have a boy, but they got me. So they raising me as a boy. So my personality is very much like a little boy. So all my friends and through my teenage was boys. And even when I go to the temple, I just like to hang out with like little monks instead of little nun. And this is I got scolded a lot because of this, but but well, that's what who I am or who I was. So my best friend, who is a monk, So whenever I have problem, I always go to the temple and talk to him. And also
Mm,
because it's just go there, stay there for a long time, and just hung out with him, and stay in the temple. Just did whatever he does. Then I become little by little. I become interested in the late life. I mean the Odent life. I can see that he only 2 years old, 2 years older than me, but he is so wise. Like everything he said or does, it just gives me like, what? Like how can you see things like that? And so that become
mm,
one of the aspects like in my very young mind. Like I want to be
mm,
the type person like that, so calm, so wise. And because of that, just
mm,
keep going back to the temple whenever I have trouble in life. It's become a habit in the mind that whenever I have challenge in life, I'm just go to the temple and practice and find
mm,
out the reason or the answer, or at least to get out of my own suffering. So I think the very first person that give me inspire is definitely my best friend, my childhood best friend.
mm.
And the condition of living in the temple for many times, a long time, it just become a habit in the mind. That's where I refuge when I have trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, stories are always some of the best ways to get to know folks more and more. So I appreciate these stories that you two are sharing. And let's see. So, what are you focusing on right now for your own personal spiritual growth? Like any specific practices, any particular readings or learnings, or sitting with any specific teachings?
Well, perhaps I'll start on that and give Elsie the last word. I would say that for me, I'm interested in this idea of the self liberation of phenomena. And that's kind of a
Mm,
technical term, but what it means is that when awareness is very strong, we can just notice that things arise and pass away. As long as we don't touch them, they will arise, have their life, and move on.
mm,
And we don't need to do some kind of an antidote or apply our wisdom or even really make effort. It's the non-effort that comes about after we've done a lot of right effort. There's a way that things can naturally just flow along, and this idea of self-liberation through not doing, then we realize the real challenge is not to do anything with what arises, and that in
mm,
itself is quite an art. So for me, that's a little bit of a growing exploration, is to notice the degree to which phenomena will behave just as they do, and I don't need to include any input to them in order for them to become free.
mm. Is this just things that may happen for you personally, or also on the larger scale, like just out in the world?
These are just things that arise, these are anything that arise. On the retreat, we'll
Mm,
learn that there's not so much difference between those things. As Joseph
mhm.
Goldstein says, only six things ever happen: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the mind. That's all that ever
Mhm,
happens. And so this would be the space where we're understanding that kind of simplicity to what's happening. But then it has applications in our personal life and
mhm,
globally. It doesn't mean we don't do anything, ever take any action,
mhm,
or that we don't have any intentions in the world. But yeah, it's looking at the really what is the natural flow of things and how can I be in
mm.
harmony completely, the natural flow.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that. And Elsie, will you add also? You have any additions to that for your focus of spiritual growth at the moment?
Well, for me, just very similar to Kim. I
Mm,
don't have any big idea or like grand goal, but I like to, mm, like I said, I get influence from my teachers a lot. Um,
mm,
like anything that I have not yet find out why the reason I'm keep suffering, even very
mm.
small thing like somebody cut me off or when I
Mm,
was driving, why I keep upset about this thing. So
mm,
I
mm,
like the idea that Sayadaw Shumin, who is the teacher of my teacher, the teacher of Sayadaw Utechaniya, who is my teacher. And Sayadaw Shumin said that whenever the mind is suffer, the only reason is itself. So
mm,
and then Sayadaw Utechaniya is also have the like told us once when he was still in late life. He said that whenever he let's say he go to the toilet, and you all know that when you was in Asia and the toilet in Asia is not that clean like here, right? So it was very dirty, and like but he go in and his mind still very calm and tranquil. So he just like keep practice with like the things that make him more uncomfortable or still uncomfortable. So he keep practice more and more. Sometimes it's just a training and sometimes it's a learning. And I definitely took that from him. So
mm.
just ordinary things in daily life. Why I still want to eat ice cream? Instead of eating dinner. Like, how many times do I have to listen to that same song again and again? Still love it. Why? It's not like something bad or good. I just want to be very curious about the mind and why the mind is moving and how it's moving and
Mm,
what it make it more happy, less happy. Is there cleaning and all of that. And just by all of that, learning from that, I can see is make my life is more and more easier. And from the um, I, I'm strongly believe that like Kim mentioned earlier in our interview today, like from one person, when you are happy with yourself, when you satisfy with yourself, that radiate to people around you. So I
mm,
think
mhm,
to
mhm,
for it's not only for my own spiritual growth, but it is serve as
mm,
the center that make the
mhm.
environment or people around me or in my life have better way of understanding or at least um, less suffering because of myself.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate the nuance of what both of you shared and how there's things that we can do ourselves. And then as you just ended with LC, how it can still pour into the whole, into the community and into the environment, you know. I think that's always at the core of practice and, any spiritual lineage you dive into, yeah, there's always the understanding of pouring into the whole also, in the process of pouring into yourself. So yeah, thank you for sharing those.